certainly speaks volumes to have you here and to show your support of our programming here in Council Rock. And I do want to acknowledge we have Dr. Sanko, our superintendent, with us, who has been a big supporter of our implementation process, as well as 2 school board directors. We have Ms. Stone and Mr. Hickey. So I do want to start by acknowledging their presence tonight. And before we officially begin, I also want to recognize someone very important to this process, and that's Mrs. Rose Burkhead, who has led the charge in our implementation process of our 2 new ELA programs, one being Wonders. And a real critical part of the implementation process is training teachers and staff, and that whole professional development piece that Rose certainly has a passion for and is certainly showing her commitment to that process on a daily basis. And we know the more that we invest in our teachers in terms of professional development, our students will be impacted positively. So recently, Rose came to me and she said, Brandon Harvey, but I knew who she meant. Brandon from McGraw Hill is going to be in town, and he's doing some training and offered to do training and professional development for teachers in Council Rock. And he offered to do a literacy night for the community to share a little bit more about our Wonders program and to answer questions. And I know from seeing Brandon in action that he is a favorite amongst our teachers and staff. He is very passionate about the work that he does, and so Rose is going to officially introduce Brandon, but I want to acknowledge, Rose, your good work, and thank you for your commitment to the process, and it's an exciting time in Council Rock. So again, thank you to each of you for being here tonight, and I'll turn it over to Rose.
Thank you, Nicole. So I have the honor of introducing Brandon Harvey to us to speak tonight, but before we officially introduce Brandon, I just wanted to talk through the process a little bit of how we came to Wonders and Reading Horizons, how we chose our programs, and just kind of the road we've been on since spring of 2022. So in spring of 2022, we gathered as an ELA committee and we started to talk through our needs in literacy. And that sprung us on a very long journey, continuous journey that really is never going to end, because professional development and what we do in English language arts is going to be ongoing forever and ever and ever. But since that time, in spring of 2022, we have had over 50 professional development sessions in Council Rock. And many of them have been with Reading Horizons. And the Reading Horizons sessions have been trainings live in person. I think that is so important, that live in-person connection. We have not done many virtual trainings. We haven't found them to be beneficial. We have also done coaching sessions with Reading Horizons. And the coaching sessions, people have come out from Reading Horizons, they've sat in our classrooms, they've debriefed with us, and it's just been such a great journey to learn from an outsider coming in, looking at what's going on, what we're doing well, what we still need to improve upon. So that work has been amazing. Enter McGraw Hill and Wonders, we pick up with more professional development. And we started off with a pilot. The pilot was really going well. We decided to switch course with one of the other programs we were using. Everybody jumped on board with McGraw Hill Wonders in spring of 2023, and that is the moment I met Brandon. It was February of 2023. Brandon flew in very cold weather, and he had on a sweater, and he took care of our people who were I called them the switchers, and he got them all acclimated and up and running. And since that day in February, we have become fast friends, and he has just, I think you've been here 7 times, Brandon, just since February of 2023. He has trained everyone from 1st grade up through 5th grade, and has just been such a huge piece of making sure we're all moving in the right direction. Josh is also here, Josh Funk from McGraw Hill. He's our sales rep. And again, thank you, because you're making these connections happen, and you're listening. You're providing these opportunities for partnerships to emerge and for all of us to learn together. So, Brandon, my official welcome to you is, we met, I think we talked on the phone when the Phillies lost to the Astros.
What can I
So
Oh yeah,
I'm
I'm
just
from
gonna,
Houston, by the way.
he's from Houston,
Go Astros.
so I'm hoping this friendship lasts until the Phillies beat the Astros, so that I can wear a Phillies sweater to meet you in Houston.
There you go.
So without further ado,
Thank you.
Brandon.
Yes. Thank you. The Phillies did do good last weekend against the Marlins. All right, well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining me. That's absolutely right. I just wanted to, because there's been a lot of change in literacy in Council Rock, and that's a good thing. And there's just been a lot of terminology bouncing around out in the atmosphere. You can log on to the interwebs and Twitters, and you hear all these terminology, but what does it really mean? And that's what I wanted to talk to you about tonight is, what is the science of reading? And I also know that here in Council Rock, students first, right? Always. And so that's where we're going to begin. I am Brandon. I am a senior national literacy specialist at McGraw Hill, but I am also a former educator. I have taught in second grade, third, fourth grade, 1 year in fifth grade. That was not my jam. Went back to fourth grade. I really like fourth grade a lot. So let's get started. I love this. I believe this. We recognize literacy is a fundamental human right that empowers individuals in any society, in our society here in Bucks County, in Council Rock. I think it's really important, and that's why we're doing this change, because we want every child. It's so important. Literacy opens the doors to everything, right? We are in a knowledge economy, right? It is the currency, right, of that economy of the 21st century, and it will be built on the foundation of a skilled reader. That's a really powerful statement. The currency is knowledge in that economy. Students who read well have a place at the table of opportunity, no matter where they're born, no matter what they look like, no matter their background. That can lead them to preparation for college, if that's what they so choose, or to go right into the workforce, a vocational, doesn't matter. But, oh, do I need to stay still for that video?
No.
Sorry, I'm a walker in a mover. I like to entertain the masses.
You
because
can
I got people
entertain.
on both sides, so you just keep that video.
Okay.
Sorry. But I think it's really important we think about, illiteracy, does a lot of harm, right? Not only for test scores, but incarceration. If you look at what happens to incarcerated individuals, illiteracy levels are huge, right? Opportunities go down. So literacy is a huge important factor in just opportunity in our society, and that's only going to increase. Thank you. Now, we are here to talk about the science of reading and what that means. Well, I had to come up with a definition. And there is an organization, please feel free to write this down, or you can search this on the internet. It's called the Reading League. They are a national organization that is devoting all of their work to scientifically based curriculum or to research on reading. And so they have developed a definition, and that's where I've got this definition from, is their defining guide. So you can find this on their website. The science of reading is a vast, interdisciplinary body of scientifically based research about reading and issues related to reading and writing. Right there, I see an issue. The terminology, the coined phrase, the science of reading, I really wish we called it the science of literacy, because we don't want parents or community members to think, oh, it just means reading. It really means what? Reading, writing, listening, speaking, all the things that are involved in being a literate person, which is broader than just opening a book and reading and comprehending. So there's a lot more involved there. The other thing that stands out to me is interdisciplinary body, right? It's not just educational research, it's medical research, it's cognitive science, neuroscience. We know a lot more about the brain. Now, I do like this, but we have to have Brandon's definition as well. I had to tinker with this a little bit, because although I fully agree with this, I think we can adjust this a little bit, because there is something I know about science, and there is a lot about the science of reading that we could say is quote unquote settled science, because the research is not new. It has been tested and validated over and over again. But what do we know about science? It's constantly what? Changing, evolving. Can we see Brandon's definition? I expanded it a little bit. That the science of reading is vast, unfinished, continuously growing, and evolving, right? I think that's important to remember. That Council Rock has done a wonderful job of implementing resources, curriculum that are grounded in this research body. But as our good friend Oprah tells us, when we know better, we do better, right? So we may learn things in 5 or 6 years, and we have to adjust to that. That's what we're doing, right? When we know better, we do better. 'Cause things will grow, things may change, things will evolve, right? We have to remember that as parents. The way we learned might be a little different than the way our students, right, are learning and doing things. Is that probably true? Do you notice that, those of you with little ones at home? Yeah. All right, so let's go on. Here's a great thing. What the science of reading is not. It's not an ideology or philosophy. In fact, it's also not a fad or a trend. You know, that's what I worry about, because people keep saying this term that like science of reading, like it's gonna like become trendy and then it's gonna fall off. I wanna let you know that even though the term science of reading may be new to you, the science, right? Because really what it is decades upon decades of scientific research. This research body is not new. Many of the research studies go back 10, 20 years. We had a national reading panel, right, 20 years ago. So a lot of this is not new. Now, the sad thing is, some of that research wasn't making it into the hands and into the classrooms. It was sort of gate-kept by those researchers or by authors or by others. And that's a sad fact, right? But when we know better, we do better. And that research is now also luckily because of the internet, because of the way that information is flowing so vast and fast. You know what? Science of reading is not a political agenda. It's not left, it's not right, okay? It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, right? Science of reading still means we differentiate and meet the needs of all of our learners. That's really important to remember. Oh, you know what? Yes, I work for McGraw Hill. We have a reading program called Wonders that is in Council Rock schools. But I can't put a sticker on here that says Wonders, Science of Reading, because Science of Reading is not a program. What have we already learned, everybody? Science of Reading is what? Y'all didn't know y'all were going to be quizzed. What is it? Science of Reading is a body of research. If you leave here learning nothing, you'll know that Science of Reading is what? It's a body of research. right? Decades and decades of reading. So it's not even a program. But what I can tell you is that Council Rock has chosen a curriculum, a program that is based in, is grounded in that research, okay? And it's also not a single specific component of instruction. This is something I do hear from some teachers, not necessarily here in Council Rock, but I work all across the country. They're like, oh, if we just teach more phonics, that's science of reading. Oh, we just need to do more phonemic awareness or just more fun. That's no. Remember, I wish they would have called it the science of literacy, because there's more to it. It's a large umbrella of what our teachers are doing during the English language arts reading block of an elementary school day, right? So it's all of the parts and pieces, the reading, the writing, the grammar, the listening, the speaking, the conversations that are going on. It's all of those things. Thank you. All right, so now let's do a quick welcome to school. You got somebody sitting either next to you or in front of you or behind you. This is an image of a child, right? An elementary school child. You can see them. They also have some yarn in their hands. I think in some ways this represents a child learning to read. How would you say this represents a child learning to read? How would you, if Epha said, hey, here's an image of what it means to learn to read. How so? How might you describe that? You wanna go first? Look,
Okay. I'll take a crack at it.
Sure, there's no right or wrong answer, by the way.
You have to make a finished product out of that. You have a bunch of different strands of different colors, which are different avenues, and somehow all these strands have to band together to make a uniform product.
Right, like coming up with comprehending the text maybe that you read. I love it. Do you have an idea? How could all of that mean reading to learn, or to learn to read?
All of your skills have to come together. Your phonemic awareness.
Oh, ding, ding,
your
ding.
comprehension.
Gifted and talented student over here, making connections, having to put it together. Yes, what do you think?
I think it's messy.
Learning to read could be messy. I like it. Got a parent back here. What do you think?
Oh, I thought it was like neurons firing, and when they all connect,
Oh.
that's how you get to the reading stage.
So it's kind of like what's going on in the brain, like all the neurons, all the things firing in the brain. Okay, that's good. Okay, we'll go over here, front row table. You got anything? Going on? Are the neurons firing? Yes, okay.
All the different components of literacy come together.
Okay, yeah, but maybe they're kind of messy right now because this child's learning to read, right? So all the components, and this child's kind of having to figure it out, right? I like that. And I think that's important to remember. Our early readers, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, they're just trying to put it all together. And it doesn't happen overnight, and that's really important to remember. And for some, right, this might be even into second grade, third grade, right? It doesn't sort itself out for all children all at the same time. We're all on sort of different learning individual pathways. Thank you. So good job, everybody. Way to be risk takers and share those answers, just like in school. So I want to give you a little history lesson. So this is called the simple view of reading. And I thought, what a horrible name. Because guess what? Learning to read is what? Anything but simple. But it is a very simple way of looking at it. There were two researchers, you don't need to remember this, their names were Gow and Tumner, and y'all look at that date. This goes all the way back to 1986. And they wanted to hypothesize that there is a very simple way to distill what it means to learn to read. And they said decoding, okay, which is kind of sounding out words, right? That might encompass like your phonemic awareness and phonics skills, times language comprehension equals reading, right? Kind of being a skilled reading. I want you to look carefully. That is not an addition problem, it's a multiplication problem. Okay, I know this is not a math night, but let's use our math skills. What do we know about multiplication? Anything times 0 equals what? 0. So, if a child is learning to read and they have great decoding skills, but they lack comprehension, what will the equals be?
0, 0.
Okay? They cannot decode, but maybe they have some vocabulary and they have some background knowledge and kind of can put things together. The answer will be 0. You see? But all this was with a hypothesis for other researchers to make tests against. Over 51 cases, test studies, research studies were done against this hypothesis. It was true every time. So the simple view of reading has still held up. That you have to have decoding, right? Which is sort of, like I said, that phonemic awareness, learning the sounds of our language and the phonics, that letter-sound relationship. K, a, t. Seeing a C, A, and a T and knowing that's cat, right? And language comprehension, and there's a lot of pieces to language comprehension, we'll get into that. But you need both of those pieces in order to start developing as a skilled reader, okay? So that is a very, very simplistic way of understanding what it means to learn to read. Are y'all with me? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's go. Now, a little bit later, in 2001, remember that was 86, a woman who is a psychologist named Dr. Hollis Scarborough, who's from not far from here in Jersey, she was asked to present to a group just like you, community members, parents, who had kiddos going into kindergarten. Her friend rang and said, her friend said, hey, Hollis, could you come talk to these parents? They have kindergartners, and like tell them what it means to learn to read. Oh my gosh, I gotta go talk to parents and tell them what it means to the, hey, here's what your kids are gonna be doing, what it means to learn to read. So on a napkin in her kitchen, she sketched this. Her husband happened to be a graphic designer, and he put this together for her. True story, because I talked to her on the phone. So this is how this graphic came to be. This is an infographic. Now, do you remember the equation that we just saw? It was decoding times language comprehension equals skilled reading. So this is decoding, this is language comprehension, and this is the result. She just showed all the parts and pieces and fibers of what goes into those things. What you will notice is in language comprehension, we got background knowledge, vocabulary, language structures, verbal reasoning, literacy, knowledge. That's a lot of things going on. And they start here, and it twists together. And this says being increasingly strategic, being more automatic. Whoops. Did I do that? Is this a touch screen?
No, it's a touch screen.
Well, you can fix it with your mind. And then as that rope gets tighter, fluency, right? Over here, phonological awareness, decoding, sight word recognition, and then that starts to wrap together, being more automatic to fluency, and those two things then, the two sides wrap together. What's interesting, this infographic is caught on like wildfire across the country. Most school districts and teachers use this as their end-all be-all of what science of reading means to them. However, does this mean that teachers should teach that in order? So their day should be background knowledge first, vocabulary second, language, no. Do you think this means because they all line up to the left that they all deserve equal amounts of time in the school day? Yes or no? No. We don't. Yeah, certain things deserve more time than others, right? Depends on the grade level, time of year. So there's good things about this rope that it tells us, but there's a lot of things that it doesn't tell us, like how much time, right? What the teacher needs to do. The other thing that I think is fascinating, look very carefully at the red and the blue side of the rope. The red is twisted. The blue is braided. Why? Why? Anybody want to guess? It's okay, this is a safe space.
Don't look at me, I have anxiety.
Oh, okay. We won't call on you. We'll go right here. He'll help you out. You want to take a game? What do we know about decoding phonics? Why would that need to be braided? It's the code of our language. Can all of you read in this room? Are all of you readers? So when you look at my screen or you open up a book or anything on your phone, do you hesitate and sound out words? No. Is it automatic? In fact, do you even consciously think about sounding out words? You don't even think about it. It's actually happening in mere milliseconds unconsciously. In fact, you're not even devoting very much brain power at all to it. So what do you know about a braid versus a twist?
Doesn't have to do with, sorry, I was going to say, it's because the blue is the increasingly automatic, so it becomes, so when you braid, it's almost like an automatic motion and it keeps going, and but the strategic is you're strategically thinking about it and placing it.
That you're on the right track. Yes, I like what you're saying there. But what do we know? Just if you just followed the blue, what do you know about something that's braided? If you took hair and you braided it versus twisting it, which one's gonna?
I was gonna say a braid has like 3 equal parts. They all have to be the same size. for it to
Yes.
look nice.
They have to look nice, but yes.
So it can't be undone. It has to come together in order for it to work.
Say it again out loud.
It cannot be undone. The braid has to come together.
Cannot be undone. Y'all, those of you that have, any of you have the little people or have raised the little humans at home? Have you ever had that moment when all of a sudden they can open up a book or they're out and about and they just start reading words and you're like, how did you do that? They unlock the code because it gets locked in. And once it's locked, they are off and running. And then it will happen, like I said, it happens to all of you when you pick up your phones. When you leave tonight, you will look at your phone and you won't even think about sounding out the words. It will just automatically happen. You're doing it right now, right? So you boom, 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 boom. She can, and in fact, not just sounding out the words, but spelling. I bet you don't think much about how to spell the words. It's happening automatically, isn't it? That's what we're talking about. So that's why, isn't that fascinating? I can't tell you how many teachers and educators look at this, they don't even recognize that that's braided versus twisted. Because the other side of the rope, vocabulary, background knowledge. Just think about that. As adults, do you learn new words? Do you learn new information? So if our brain is malleable like a twist, I can untwist, put that new word in, twist it back up. Or, oh, I learned some new knowledge, cool, something I didn't know before. I can place it in and then twist it back up. It twists and untwists. That's what happens in our brains as we're learning to read. That's why it's not a braid, because if it was locked in, wouldn't allow that. But once I learned the English code of sound spellings, it's done, right? Versus learning more literacy knowledge, vocabulary. That's a little bit more flexible. But when the two come together, That's reading. The two things are working together. Okay, I've spent too much time on that. Yeah, it's fascinating. But here, I just want you to see, so this is where, right, that simple view, they took the language comprehension piece, that's sort of was that top part of the rope. They took the word recognition part, right, that was the multiplication sign in the middle, that's the bottom part of the rope. Y'all with me? See how those two got split. All right, let's move on. So, I want to just very quickly, especially those of you that are not educators, right, your parents or your school board members, and you know, this might be new information for you. I just want to very quickly let you know they're teaching reading, you know, and the science of reading is anything but simple. It's been said, teaching somebody to read is like rocket science. You know, it's difficult. So I want to just let you know what all of these things are and what our teachers are doing in Council Rock every day, and let you know that Wonders is grounded in this, and every single fiber, every single thing that I'm about to tell you is built in to this curriculum. How exciting is that? That's awesome, right? Now, go back a slide really quickly. Interestingly enough, just like you told me in the equation, anything times 0 is 0. Well, if that was a, I don't know, an internet cable or an electrical cord, if any one of those fibers got cut, what would be the problem? If I snipped any one of those individual fibers, and that was like a cable to plug in my TV or to get, what would be the problem?
It's not gonna work.
Not gonna work. Same thing with the reader. If my students, if my child is, if we don't do all of these things, I'm not going to get what I need to be literate, to be successful, right? In order to build background, to be a writer, to understand vocabulary, to decode. But that's the cool thing, is that we're getting all of these things every day at every grade level. Okay, now let's move on. So background knowledge is just the information that not only the students bring to us with the experiences they have, but it's also what we provide to the students so that they can help to comprehend the text. All right, let's go to the next one. Vocabulary, look at that. It is the quality and quantity of words to know, okay? Because students now are reading high quality, complex texts. That's kind of the term in the scientific way to say. But grade level complex text, yes, it is challenging, right? Because they may not have read texts that have been at grade level before. So they may be seeing words that are more challenging. The other thing to know about vocabulary is that when we learn it through direct instruction. Boys and girls, the word is communicate. Here's what the word communicate means. But they also learn words indirectly from television, from the internet, from hearing conversations at home. That's why it's so important that you engage with your child, right? As parents, as adults, we have to get off our devices, get off our phones and our iPads and talk to our children, right? When we're at dinner or when we're in the car, so that they can learn more vocabulary. Language structures, right? This is sentence level text. This is how the language works, right? This is part of grammar, right? Continue. Verbal reasoning. How do we make meaning? So I read something, what does it mean? But not just what does it mean, it means that can I talk about it? Remember how I said reading, writing, listening, speaking? Can I read something and then have a discussion about it? We want kids, and that's the thing, if you come into a classroom and they're doing Wonders, you're gonna see more engagement, more collaborative conversations with students, right? More academic discourse. Can they talk about what they're reading and explain it verbally? Let's go. Literacy knowledge, right? All of the ideas we know are true about language and the books and the text within them and all the different genres. That's the other great thing, is that with Wonders and through the experiences they'll have kindergarten all the way through 5th grade, they will be reading a wide range of texts of all different genres, right? A balance of fiction and informational text, realistic fiction, realistic nonfiction, expository text, poetry, folktales, legends, myths, just the whole range of genres. All right, so that's the language comprehension side. So that's really your background knowledge, your comprehension, verbal reasoning, your grammar. It's also your writing, even though it didn't ever explicitly say writing. Now let's talk about the word recognition side. Let's go. So phonological awareness. Phonological, that has to do with sound. This is a skill set that involves hearing, identifying and manipulating units of sound, oral language. Boys and girls, birthday. Everybody clap. Birthday. How many syllables are in birthday? Why aren't you clapping? Birthday. How many syllables? How many times are you clapping? How many was it? 2, everybody. Yeah, y'all, that is phonological awareness. Just doing things like that. Rhymes and chimes. Hearing the parts of sounds. We do that a lot in early kindergarten, beginning maybe of 1st grade. But then there is a subset, right, of phonological awareness called phonemic awareness. So now I want to not talk about the word part, birthday. What is the first phoneme of birthday? What's that first sound you hear in birthday? Can anybody tell me what sound? What is it? B. Do you hear that? B. Some kids can't. We have to teach that, right? B, b. Then, once they do, no, b. I will go, that b sound is represented, pretend like I have a card here with the letter B. And once I show them the letter and match it to the sound, now we're decoding and I'm doing phonics. Are you with me? So if I'm just doing the sound, phono, right, phonemic awareness, but once I say, here's the letter that makes the sound, we start decoding. And once we put a string of phonemes together, right, like at, cat, we're decoding words. And we want to happen automatically, without thinking, right? And then we're off to the races. All right. Very simplistic way to explain that. Then finally, sight word recognition. How a reader identifies words immediately and its meaning within a sentence. There are certain words, right? About 50% of our language, there are the. How many times do you see the word the? Or a, his, her, would. There are certain words that just appear automatically. We call them high frequency words. They need to know by sight. And so we teach those very quickly and rapidly so that they can start reading quickly and rapidly. All right. So did you know that our brains are wired for spoken language? Did you know that when we are born, we are wired to speak, right? Because how many of you have had those mama, say mama, dad, can you say dad, right? You're in their face doing it. But, they can receive that language, they can learn to speak, but we must be taught how to read. Reading instruction changes our brain. It's so funny, so many parents, you send them to, it's like, it's not, do they think it's magic? It's not magic, right? We have to be taught how to read. It changes the structure of our brains, right? How they work. Once we learn to read, though, we cannot turn it off, right? That's why I was saying, when you look at your phones, if you stare at this board, you can just see the words. You can read the words. It's silently in your head. It's happening automatically with almost near no effort. Let's go. So this is where it happens. Look at this. This is fascinating. The front part of our brain, this is where the sounds are processing, right? The middle part of our brain, right here, this is where like that letter and that sound are coming together. So when I B and the letter B, the B and the letter B is coming together here, and then back of the brain, this is the orthographic mapping. So once you know all of the letters and the sounds they make, you put it together, we call that orthographic map. It's happening back here so that the brain can automatically retrieve it. Isn't this fascinating? This is the brain science connected to the science of reading. So I want to talk for just a second about a little bit of brain science. There is a man named John Medina. Again, right, not an educational scientist, a molecular biologist. If you want to jot this down, his book is called Brain Rules. And he talks about how to survive and thrive at work, at home, and at school. It's a really fascinating, real easy read. But he talks about how the brain learns and how the brain works, both at home and at school. And so it's a real kind of interesting read. And I want to just tell you a story. Y'all know who these guys are, right? Right? Michael Jordan, Ken Griffey Jr. People would probably argue, but maybe they wouldn't argue. They would say Michael Jordan is the GOAT, right? The greatest of all time for what sport? Right? Ken Griffey Jr., also a Hall of Famer for what sport? Baseball, right? Does anybody, I think it was, don't quote me on this, 1994? What happened? What did Michael Jordan do? Does anybody remember? He quit. He quit basketball and he went to go play baseball. Now, by all accounts, he was the top of his game. He is the most fit athlete. He has all the resources at his disposal. He has money. He can afford the best coaches, the best equipment, the best of everything. Could probably fly anywhere or fly people in. Probably could have a chef if you have the best food and diet to prepare and play Major League Baseball. And that's exactly what he did. I forgot what team it was, but he went to go play Major League Baseball, didn't he? Yeah. And how'd that turn out for him? Does anybody, do you remember?
Not good.
It was not good. It was not good. Because it turns out that there's actually not a spot in the brain for athleticism. You are not born an athlete. You might have certain gifts, but what it is repetition and practice and experiences over and over and over again, just like in school, right? There is no specific spot in the brain. So, if we think about that in terms of education, the brain is wired to take on language, unlike sports. So if we think about learning being about experiences, crafting instructional experiences to acquire language and reading skills, the research supports this. And we do it through routines to create who was that said neurons, you were genius, how did you know? Neural pathways in the brain for systematic explicit instruction. Those are two other words that teachers and educators say a whole lot. Write that down if you haven't heard it. Let me explain what they mean. Systematic, and Council Rock's doing this, and it's a good thing. Systematic just simply refers to a sequence of instruction they follow, also known as a scope and sequence. We're going to teach it in this order in these grade levels, right? And it's articulated vertically, kindergarten through 5th grade or 8th grade, 12th grade. Explicit simply means I'm going to model it, I'm going to do it first, watch me, and then we'll do it together, and then I want to see you try it, and then I might give you some feedback, watch me again, okay, you do it again now. So it's kind of an I do it, we do it, you do it. That's what explicit means. But always following that sort of routine-based instruction, okay? So why we do this? Because it takes the brain only mere seconds to recognize a routine. Y'all, I'm just wondering, when you wake up in the morning, do you kind of always do the same thing first? Right? I always have to go get a drink of water. I drink like a whole thing of water first thing when I get up in the morning. You might always have to go get that coffee going in the morning, right? You probably have a routine. Here's another example. Do any of you have to open up Apple Maps to get from your house to school or to your job? Probably not. Why? Because it's, what's the R word? Routine. It's the same thing for students. And that's what we are doing in our classrooms. The instruction now is routine-based. That's awesome for the brains of our students, because now we're not eating up all this working memory in our kids' brains going, oh, what does my teacher want from me now? Oh, I know what we're doing. This is how we do it every day. Now I can focus on the word or the skill. How nice is that? So repetition of that routine builds long-term memory, and the brain actually even knows where to store it. There's even research that might say if that child is kind of over here like doodling, you know, and not really paying attention, if the teacher is always doing it the same way, the brain is knowing, it's taking it in, even if they're not quite like, you know, giving their full eye contact attention. It's kind of fascinating. All right. So an instructional routine, a regular sequence performed as part of a procedure. And one of the things I'll just highlight, that every teacher in Council Rock that is using Wonders has this tool. It's called the Instructional Routine Handbook. And every part of the teacher's instruction is based around routines. And they're getting there. Y'all, we're just in year 1, right? It's kind of like that athlete that's learning the golf swing or how to throw. Do they have it just on the first time? No, they got to practice it over and over again. Or how about the performer that's learning the dance steps? You know, do they have it the first time? No. What does the dancer have to do? They have to go to rehearsal and practice and practice. That's what we're doing. We're getting it. We're getting there, right? But that's what we're working towards. Okay? But this is why. Because we want to organize our instruction. We're learning to set clear expectations so the students know what to expect. The teacher can scaffold that instruction. And I love this one. We have only so many minutes in our day. So we maximize our instructional minutes. And ooh, look what's highlighted. Can we read that together? Let's read the highlighted words together. 3, 2, 1, read. Minimize teacher talk. Typically, teachers over-talk things, right? We need to minimize that so we focus our instruction. But I love this. This is a good thing. Can we read the last bullet together? 3, 2, 1, read. Maximize student participation. Excellent, let's go. And again, like I said, this is that explicit instruction. It's called the gradual release model. I do, we do, you do it together, you do it alone. And that instruction should happen. When I train, I always say we teach Wonders at a perky pace, right? It should be fast paced. All right. And again, going back to my source, the Reading League, they talk about how important, there's multiple paragraphs here of explicit instruction. It involves direct explanation. And again, this is things that we're really concentrating and working on here in Council Rock, that the teacher's language is concise, right? No, not over-talking it. Here's what we're going to do. Here's our objective, right? That explicit instruction is visible. It includes a high level of teacher-student interaction. That explicit instruction means the actions of the teachers are clear, unambiguous, direct. This makes it clear what the students are to do and to learn, and nothing is left to guess. That's powerful language. That's what we mean when we're talking about, explicit instruction. So one of the ways we're getting there is with the instructional routine handbook. And so when I'm working with teachers, right, bringing it back full circle, because tonight has been about the science of reading. And let's see who remembers. The science of reading, it's not a program, it's what? It's a body of research. Oh, y'all said that with such enthusiasm. Yes, it's a body of research. Well, teachers are busy, right? They don't have time to read all those research articles, and that's okay because they've been given a program that is research-based and grounded in that research, right? And they, under the trust of Rose and team, have done their due diligence, right, to know that that research is packed in there. But what's lovely about this is a bridge that brings those research-based practices into the classroom. through those routines. Okay? That's powerful. And so Wonders is grounded in that research, going back to that Scarborough's road. Okay, go ahead. So routines are essentially part of effective instruction. They give structure to time, which we know is critical. That's always that teacher's back, that clock. Okay, only so many minutes in the day, so we want to maximize every minute. And the interactions we have with our students. Letting students know what to expect in terms of participation, supporting classroom management, organization, and promoting productive classroom relationships. There is research, y'all, of effect size. John Hattie, done a lot of research. There's books by John Hattie on effect size. The number one thing he says in all of his metadata that makes a difference in classrooms, it's not curriculum, it's relationships. The relationship of students and teachers. It's fascinating. So I love that it says relationships. All right, we're going to end with this. Love this quote. Effective early intervention is like building better fences at the top of a cliff rather than parking ambulances at the bottom. But the best early intervention is effective instruction. And that's what Council Rock has so proudly done, has instilled a fabulous core Tier 1 research-based instruction that is effective. Okay? Thank you. So, appreciate you guys being here tonight. Thank you for attending. I hope this offered some clarity around what exactly is the science of reading and how that is fitting into the core reading language arts resource. And as Rose mentioned, and Nicole, like this is again a process that we're just on the journey of, and we're so honored to partner with you guys. And I know she said I've been here 7 times. I was in classrooms, yes, all day yesterday and all day today, observing and coaching our Council Rock teachers. And I can tell you with great pride that there's such wonderful things happening, right? And that's exciting, and we're gonna keep growing together. And I think it's important that we all have a stake, you know, as community members in the success of literacy, you know, in our district. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you being here tonight. Welcome to take a snack, and I'll be here if you have questions at the end, but class dismissed. Thank you guys very much.